419 with Gretchen DeBacker, Matt Killam, and Kevin Mullen.
Welcome into the 419, powered by WGTE and presented by Wealth Management. I'm Kevin Mullen.
Gretchen DeBacker.
Matt Killam.
It is a Wellness Wednesday, presented by WorkSpring. I can never get those adjectives right.
That's okay.
Is that an adjective?
That's okay too.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I know
Gonna get no argument out of us.
my brother, the English teacher, will correct me on this.
Oh, I'm sure.
And he will be very happy about it.
That's what brothers are for.
Yeah,
Guys,
that's right.
why I have all of this stuff in front of me,
It's so insane.
and you have nothing.
Yeah.
I have hand sani, couple lip glosses.
Yeah, it's a growing collection. It's
3
better than when
cups.
you had an illness and it was
It was
tissues. Yeah. And your first alert bracelet.
What is the actual, walk me through, so
Well,
you've
the phone. I got water.
You got 3 different cups.
Yeah.
So
This is
you
my
got a water
personal-
cup, got it, and then,
And then this is the Witra mug, which technically I should have poured my home coffee in, but I didn't.
Okay.
And this is just my name in case I forget it.
okay.
It's on the mug.
Yep.
And then this is a lot of stuff
Who's
from
Charles?
Oregon last week. A lot of little gifts are still here.
Yeah, Hank gave some cool little,
Yeah.
trinkets and stuff.
Yeah.
So we talked, with Hank, talked about youth sports
Yes.
and rec sports. It's taken me a couple of days to get,
To process.
to process what happened. My daughter's team was in the playoffs in CYO, and one really cool. We get the schedule, and it says that my daughter's team is playing the first game at Lourdes University.
Sure.
Which is a really cool experience for
Sure.
them. But that court is huge.
Yeah.
And so I was terrified. And
Sure.
so I do some work with Lourdes. So I'm texting with the women's basketball coach at Lourdes saying
Yeah.
Can you come and coach?
how do I, that's right, please.
Yeah.
But how do I get them ready for this,
Yeah.
this experience? And she goes,
performance enhancing drugs.
that's right, that's what she said.
Yeah.
No, she goes, we practice until 5:15, 5:30 on Friday. Why don't you see if the girls can come over? And so Friday evening, our girls team joined the Lourdes girls team.
Saw the
got
court.
a chance to see
Cool.
them practice,
Yeah.
see the court. We got about an hour to practice on the court.
Yeah.
And then a couple of the girls came and gave a pep talk to the team.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's so nice.
And so
Yeah.
last year, we went into the playoffs, played a team we should have beaten, and we lost.
Okay.
Because it's a different game,
Yep.
right? And mentally, you got to get in a different space. And our girls didn't make that leap. This year, we won the first round, lost the second round, which was disappointing. But the girls played so well,
Yeah.
and legitimately left everything on the court.
Oh.
There was some skin left on the court. There was some blood left on the
Yeah,
court.
tears.
It was a lot of tears left on the court. It was great, but a really cool experience. But yeah, we beat Notre Dame.
Okay.
Your alma mater.
The first round, and then lost to St. Ursula in the second. So it happens. But yeah, so
Put
then,
out your best effort.
We did, and so then this upcoming weekend is the championship, and so St. Ursula and Queen of Apostles are duking it out for the
Now, will your
6th, 7th, 8th grade
Will
championship.
the girls go to watch the championship game?
So I put it on the calendar. I don't know.
Sure.
We'll see. I think it's right. Right now is not the right time to ask them, and I'm going to
Yeah.
give it. We've got a couple of days until, so we'll follow up with them and see if that's something that they want to join. I'd like to go see it because both teams that made it are
Sure.
playing really good basketball.
You guys
right
do
now.
pizza or ice cream or something after it? Go
We'll
out
do a
and
postseason
celebrate?
party.
Yeah.
Yep. So we've got the 3rd, 4th grade boys that will do the kids typically want to do a family versus kid game.
Oh, fun.
And we're at the age, the kids are at the age where the parents don't hold back. And so I think last year the parents won by 20. It was great.
That sounds
Yeah.
a little
We're
nutty.
not good parents, but we are better at basketball
Yes. Yikes.
than our children are. All right, so it's a wellness
Yeah.
And now everyone knows it.
Yeah, good for you, Kevin.
edition. I now regret this entire conversation
Right.
because of who our next guest
Children's
is. and I
Services will be-
know that she is going to judge me, and at my core, and I am totally okay with that. Sara Best from Real Good Ventures will join us on the other side of this break as we kick off a Wellness Wednesday presented by WorkSpring.
Support for the 419 comes from Wealth Management, where we understand that your financial path is personal. Advisory services are offered through Capital Investment Advisory Services, LLC. Securities offered through Capital Investment Group, Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. More information at wetroadvisors.com.
The 419, powered by WGTE, is made possible in part by supporters like you. Thank you.
Introducing The Local Thread, a community news series uniting voices and storytellers from across the region. In partnership with La Prensa, the Toledo Free Press, the Sojourner's Truth, Toledo Public Schools, and veteran journalist Jerry Anderson. The Local Thread brings you stories and conversations that connect our community. Hear it weeknights at 7 on FM 91 with early access on podcast platforms each morning. The Local Thread, only on WGTE.
Welcome back into the 419. It's a Wellness Wednesday edition presented by WorkSpring, and we're joined by Sara Best from Real Good Ventures. Sara, thanks for being here.
It is a pleasure, truly. I love the topic.
What is Real Good Ventures?
We are a talent optimization consultancy. I would say a different way to package that is we're a management consulting firm, but basically we help companies solve their people problems. And we would say that all business problems are people problems. And not that people are a problem either.
Well,
but
they can be.
yeah, how we work together.
Yeah,
can
we
be-
have one on the show. That's right.
Disclosure, Matt.
That's right. This is already working.
So, I mean, when you say that, like, all problems are people problems,
Yeah.
I mean, what are the kinds of, like, what's the most common people problems that you're finding and dealing with?
Well, there's two that come to mind right away. One is bosses that are ill-equipped. They're either not interested in or not able to adjust or adapt their leadership style to optimize the person they're responsible to develop. That's one problem. And I think the other is just we're very different. Messy, fallible, amazing human creatures, but we're wired differently. So we are going to bump heads and have challenges.
I'm gonna steal one of Matt's kind of key plays here, but like,
Yeah.
what makes you good at this? Like, how did you get into this, and what makes you uniquely, good at this role?
Well, I'm a social worker by training, so I think my early years, my early career was spent helping kids and families and working in a school facility for kids that had behavioral challenges. From there, though, I moved into EAP, employee assistance work, which is where we get introduced to companies and the unique challenges that happen, when we try to work together. So I think for the better part of the last 30 years, I have been very passionate about helping people, be their best and show up as their best self. And
And that's when you changed your name to Best.
hey, that's right.
To fortify this.
No pun
What
intended, yeah.
what was your household like growing up? I mean, were your parents particularly emotive? Were they good listeners? Were they good communicators? Were they the antithesis of that? Were you the captain of your sports teams? Did you have a listening lab at your lemonade stand? How did little Sara turn into?
I think I've always been interested in people.
Sure.
I care about people. My parents were both good parents. I mean, I think what they did that helped me was they revealed their humanity. And so if we could say, emotional intelligence and being effective at work is really about embracing your humanity, being vulnerable, accepting it, but also working through it and with it. So I had parents who modeled that. Namely, my dad who started working a program, recognized he had an addiction to alcohol and started working a program when I was very young. And my mom who was also a counselor, and she worked the Al-Anon program.
Sure.
So she developed all kinds of skills, for dealing with life and people. So
Brothers and sisters?
I have two brothers actually.
Yeah.
One I didn't meet until 10 years ago.
You're
this
kidding.
past week.
Yeah.
Yes. So I have two older brothers, and I think I taught them everything they know.
Sure, absolutely. And that's what they said. We have that right here. That's the quote, right?
That is a quote.
Grew up in Toledo. I understand that both you and Gretchen went to school together, sort of.
Yeah.
Yep, Notre Dame Academy.
Yep. We're Eagles.
Go
Graduates
Eagles.
of Notre Dame.
You can tell by the quality of presentation.
So you use, the topic is emotional intelligence. You use that term a couple of times. What is emotional intelligence?
Then how can we give it to Gretchen?
Well, I'm so glad you asked.
How do we gift it to her?
Gretchen already has it.
Thank
Let's
you.
just be agreed. We all
Sara.
have emotional intelligence. It's a set of skills and abilities that help us deal with the demands and pressures of life. And we start forming those abilities from the time we arrive on the planet. What's beautiful is we can develop these skills intentionally, and they can be developed throughout our lifetime, therefore making it easier for us to cope with the increasing demands and pressures. I think about how critical it is right now we have AI, we have the geopolitical landscape, we have the economic
Which is
concerns.
going great.
Isn't it though? We have all these things happening, and we have become such a dysregulated people, and we're so acclimated to the stress and the pressure. And so emotional intelligence is unique to each person, but it's a set of skills and abilities that allow us to be aware first and foremost, and then to regulate, and it's essential.
Does it teach you, or knowing what your level of emotional intelligence is, allow you to fall back on what you are, what your level is to cope with things? Is that a reason to know more about it?
Absolutely.
Is that disjointed question identifying some of the things that I was talking about earlier?
Not at all.
Not
I
at
was-
one point did that
We
come
were
close.
on the same page.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I could
I
go
got
to
her back.
Yeah.
Just
okay.
gonna let you know.
Yeah. Now that sounds like emotional intelligence.
That's right.
The rambling of that madman to my left.
Well, I think what you're asking, Gretchen, is, can we leverage what we have? Can we use the emotional intelligence that we have? And yes, we should know what our strengths are. Some of us are very self-aware, emotionally self-aware. When we balance that with empathy, we're as aware of people outside of us as we are of ourselves. We can develop very healthy transactions with others, good interpersonal relationships. When we are self-aware and recognize we have poor impulse control, I notice when I drive my car, it happened today on the way here.
Yeah.
You get behind somebody who's driving very slow, and the blood pressure starts to go up, and the hands clench the steering wheel. It's not just that we should breathe and calm down. We should be aware of what is happening. Why is that anxiety and that angst and anger rising up? Well, I'm frustrated because I think everyone should go the speed I like to go. So emotional intelligence is also knowing your emotions, but what you're saying to yourself about what you're experiencing. If we change a lot of that, we'll have much better opportunity to regulate our emotions because they're normal.
Yeah.
Can I say one more thing about emotions?
Please.
Sure. We have them. And they're not meant to be, put on a shelf behind us. We have them. They are meant to be felt and experienced and felt all the way through. But most of us have never learned how to do that.
But at work?
Yes.
So where does that play in the workplace? You have emotions, but then you're in this setting, right? And so what's the regulation there?
We think and we feel simultaneously all day. So we need to be aware both of our emotions and what we are saying to ourselves. What are the thoughts we're having about what we're experiencing? When we can get very tactical and granular about recognizing what those are and being willing to shift, especially what we say to ourselves. Well, that sucks. That person is an idiot. They shouldn't do that. That's wrong. Really what we have is oftentimes unmet expectations. We have a way that we view the world and we think everything else should fit inside that. And if it doesn't, we become frustrated. So I think it's a combo. It's a combo of knowing what you're saying to yourself and then recognizing, is this frustration? Is this boredom? Is this fear?
You sure?
Is there sadness? And then if there is, by the way, you're having that feeling at work. Putting it away or stuffing it somewhere in your body only hurts you, and it will leak out or explode out somewhere else.
I've got a question.
We're talking with Sara Best with Real Good Ventures. It's a WorkSpring. It's a Wellness Wednesday presented by WorkSpring.
Yeah.
We've talked with the folks from WorkSpring a few different times on the show about that balance or finding that line between, crossing that line relationally as an employer, as a manager. At what point are we over-acknowledging emotions in the workplace? Is that even possible, right?
What's the proper balance
Yes, thank
for a
you.
professional atmosphere and running your office or workplace is like a therapeutic office?
I think over-acknowledging is different than over-expressing. So where we have challenges when we over-express our emotions or when emotions have hijacked our thinking in the situation. So we call that an amygdala hijacking, where emotion has expression and it's harmful.
Yeah.
It's overrepresented. So I think that emotion needs to be acknowledged. Hey, I'm feeling frustrated, as an access to better communication. But it probably will take some time to cultivate a comfortability with that. And if we could speak more commonly in terms of emotions, we would give other people permission to also feel what they're feeling, because they are feeling it. Whether we believe we are or not, it shows up in our face, in our body language, Does this make sense?
It does, absolutely. I have maybe I won't be sophisticated enough to ask this appropriately, but I'm really curious about self-awareness. It is a critical part of this, but how critical should you be of your own ability to self-diagnose or self-analyze? How do you know, your own baseline or why you're behaving this way? We adjust to some degree, we adapt to some degree, but we are also very capable of deceiving ourselves to get the end that we are wanting or to project blame potentially. So self-awareness, how do you handicap that to make sure that you're being healthy and appropriate and fair to others?
That's a great question, Matt. I think you can test it out with people. We should all know that self-awareness is not just what we're feeling and experiencing in ourselves, being aware of that, but it's also being aware of how we impact others. There's two parts to it. Dr. Tasha Eurich wrote a great book called Insight, and in there she highlights research that she did that says, really, we all think we're pretty self-aware, but only 10 to 15% of us really are.
Sure.
So we can always enhance our ability to tune inside, but then check that out. This is what I'm experiencing. Is that what you're seeing from me? Or when I do this or say this, what's the impact on you?
How do you walk, you and I are friends on the side of this professionally, but I have gotten the opportunity to work with you professionally, and it's been of great benefit to me and the institution I work with. But how do you shut this off? You're also a human being. So when you're talking to your family, you're walking in the grocery store, how do you not identify somebody as like, this person is a blank, or are you the consummate professional, or how do you shut this off? Because you're not responsible for healing everyone.
Right.
Or auditing a conversation you have. Some people are just jerks. So how does Sara best walk through the world and not try to fix it?
Well, I'm certainly not perfect at it. I think that
that's what your brother said. We have that note here.
I think that it's a constant work in progress.
Sure.
I also think that we're a whole person. We're not just emotions. We're a head, heart, briefcase, and baggage. We like to say that at Real Good Ventures. Head, heart, briefcase, and baggage. The baggage is that lived experience that kind of hardwired our brain to think a certain way or perceive things a certain way. And we have the opportunity to become aware of that. Emotional intelligence is changing those neuronal pathways on purpose. So it's changing your thinking, therefore getting a different feeling. So I'm constantly working on this. And it's believing for me, head, heart, briefcase. The heart part for me values that we are one, that if I'm upset with you, I'm upset with me. If there's something I see in you that I can't tolerate, then there's something I'm not looking at in myself. That's just me. But when we think about the whole person, emotional intelligence becomes really a connection and a system of awareness of these things and a willingness to shift them. Like, I could be wrong. In fact, I am a lot.
One of our first interactions when you and I first met was through the predictive index. Can we talk about that for a couple of minutes? Because I still have this, like, it's not a love-hate relationship, but I am both fascinated and terrified of the predictive index. Because it did not ask nearly enough questions to identify every ounce of my being.
Now, Sara, is that something a jerk would say? It seems like it is.
No comment.
Okay.
That sounds like a yes. All right. Thanks a lot, Sara.
Kevin wants to make a new test.
That's right. So I made my own predictive index on that.
But when I took the predictive index and read the report, I mean, I felt very seen, and it was like, oh, this is who I am.
Can you talk about what that is also?
Yes, the predictive index is a behavioral assessment, the one you're speaking of. We call it the PI. It's part of a talent optimization platform that helps organizations optimize their people, make better people decisions. And it has a breadth of modules and cool things about it. You took the behavioral assessment, and let me just say this. We have emotions and we are emotionally active beings, but we also have these natural behavioral drives. So the PI scientifically measures these natural behavioral drives so that we can understand what people need and therefore predict how they'll behave when those needs are met. So we say drives, needs, behaviors. What's cool is you can't just look at emotional intelligence in a vacuum. You have to also understand the natural behavioral wiring, because if you think about it, emotional intelligence is how we adjust. So I'm very dominant. very extroverted. My icon is a microphone, like that. And I always say more than I should. So adapting and adjusting for me is slowing down my pace. That's impulse control. It's being aware of my emotions, and it's also dialing up my empathy so I can better read the other person and listen, because we do much better that way. So the PI helps really diagnose scientifically what those drives are. They're amazing, and also helps us then understand when they're in default and when they're in their biggest form, are they damaging potentially to you and other people? I know I can be.
That's so interesting. What
Kevin,
was yours?
what was yours? Yeah,
I was a maverick.
that would have been my guess.
I was going to say serial killer.
Yeah.
Well, they're
Yeah.
similar. I gave my, I had applied for a job years ago, and I gave my predictive index report to the employer.
Wow.
Saying, they didn't ask for it, but I was like, just before you hire me.
Yeah, or they asked me to
man.
apply.
That's right. They also didn't
There
ask.
wasn't even a job available.
That's right.
Admittedly,
This is a
that may have
toll
been
booth,
true.
sir?
But I gave them saying, like, before I go into, it was a new role for the company.
Yeah.
Before I go into this role, I need you to know who I am.
Yeah.
And if there's something in
Yeah.
my interview that convinced you otherwise,
Yeah.
this is who I am. So.
And who you are, Kevin, is a guy who sees the big picture, moves fast, doesn't necessarily attend to the details, doesn't want to. And therefore, you need somebody around you who supports that element.
That's me.
And you work with and through people.
The detail guy, Matt Killen.
What's-
Your words, Sarah.
What's yours, Matt? I know we got to wrap up here.
I'm a
but-
promoter.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah. And then Gretchen.
I've never taken it.
Yeah, nor
She
should
will
you.
after today.
I
Yeah.
would love
All
that.
right.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's probably Genius or something like that.
Yeah.
There is that profile, super
Yeah.
genius.
If people want more information on Real Good Ventures, where can they find it?
Well, it was certainly on the web. We also have a podcast called
Yep.
The Boss Hole Chronicles.
Oh, it's so good.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate your insights and your partnering with us on the podcast. And we should be featuring you all one-on-one, I think. would
Gretchen
be
really
great.
is a boss hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but thank you.
No, I think you do.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
You might have had
So
one.
good.
But yeah.
Sarah
Yeah.
Beth with Real Good Ventures, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
Yeah.
for being
My
here.
pleasure.
We got to have you
Best.
back on the program.
There
We
you
need
go.
to put
we
Gretchen
love you.
through a lot of psychiatric work.
We have said about doing these tests and then having someone come on and do it. So
Sign
we'll
me
have to do
up.
it. Okay,
Perfect.
done.
All right,
Yeah.
we'll do
Thank
that
you so
again.
much. Keep up the great work.
Thanks,
When
Sarah.
we come back, Casey Greenawalt with Michael Brown Consulting, Michael Brown Coaching, will continue this conversation on a Wellness Wednesday presented by WorkSpring on the 419.
To me, community means connecting to others.
I'm Donnie Miller, and welcome to The Point.
I love CBS Kids!
We're a community committed to education. Discover new ideas, dive into exciting subjects, and engage with the world around you.
I would send them personally a T-shirt. Crime doesn't pay in the old West End, pass it on. That's how we cleaned up the neighborhood.
Vision loss for people is not the end. It's a story. It's the next chapter.
WGTE Public Media invites you to Get Out and Play Day.
Monday through Friday, it's the 419 powered by WGTE. With Matt Killam, Gretchen DeBacker, I'm Kevin Mullen. What can people expect on the show?
It's going to be an hour. A reminder of why this is a great place to live, work, and play.
WGTE, where you come to watch, listen, and learn.
Welcome back into the 419 Wellness Wednesday presented by WorkSpring. We're joined now by Casey Greenawalt with Michael Brown Coaching. Casey, great to see you again. Thanks for being on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. I'm very excited, very grateful.
Welcome.
So you and I met a couple of years ago at opening day.
Opening day.
And I feel like you just keep popping up all over the place. I can't get rid of you. I've tried.
Yeah, I was sharing with you guys earlier. I worked at Cedar Creek for a long time in my early 20s, and then I worked at the Apple store in the Franklin Park Mall for the past 4 years or so. So I've seen the both of you walk through. We met on opening day, like we said, downtown Toledo. So yeah, I was excited when I saw your names, and then Gretchen.
Yep.
Nice to meet you.
Less
as well.
excited to see your.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, less exciting. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, no.
No, I can hear it in
not
your
at
voice,
all.
and you're not
I
wrong.
want to talk about Michael Brown Consulting, and we'll talk about the
Yeah.
actual topic at hand here. But like, you're originally from Toledo,
Yeah.
so kind of walk me through childhood and give us a little bit of background on
Your
who-
mustache is also from Toledo, or is
Yeah,
that?
yeah, born and raised.
Yeah, oh, I
Yep.
love it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, I grew up in Toledo, West Toledo area. So I grew up in this weird neighborhood near Elmhurst Elementary.
Sure.
My neighbors were Washington local, but I was TPS.
Yeah.
The side street was literally the border. So I grew up going to Elmhurst. I went to DeVoe. I went to Start High School. Did you?
Yep.
Nice,
Yep.
nice. So I had a great experience. I played basketball in high school. I was really involved. After high school, I started my career while also going to school. I worked at Cedar Creek Church. They gave me a lot of opportunities to lead, to speak, to be responsible for things, and I learned a lot through that process. Met Dr. Michael Brown through that as well, through different connections. And then working at a church is complicated. You're telling people what to believe and how to believe it. So I stepped away from that. And then I started working at the Apple store in the mall. That was a great experience. I learned a lot about teams, about relationships. A great team of people there too, by the way. They're awesome individuals. And now I work at Highland. I'm in the compliance department. I read the law and make sure that
We're going to stop
people
right
are
there
following it.
before people stop listening.
Just like you.
Always a natural public speaker. Did your folks, were they outgoing? How did you find this path?
It's a good question. My mom worked at the Blade, and she was in sales for a long time, and she loved people.
Yeah.
She was always, we were laughing last night, we were at dinner, and my mom was like on the phone, and my sister was on the phone when they were walking up, and I was like, yeah, that's about right. They're always talking to somebody.
Do you guys have dinner a lot together as a group?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
My mom and my sisters and myself, for sure.
Well, your mustache comes from your mom or dad's side?
Not my mom.
Okay.
Actually, maybe her side. I am Italian, so maybe the thick hair and mustache comes from that side of the family.
You never know.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the Winter Olympics.
Let's talk about Michael Brown Consulting.
Yep.
Who is Michael Brown, and what is Michael Brown coaching?
Yeah, so I met Michael. His son and I grew up. We were the same age. His name's Justin. Justin's a great guy, and we just became friends. I really liked the person he was. He cared a lot about becoming. He cared a lot about other people. He was a great listener. He was someone who was quick to listen, slow to speak. And so I was just attracted to that kind of personality, started hanging out with him, and he said, you gotta meet my dad, which is a little odd. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not necessarily very excited to introduce people to my dad. If it happens, it happens, but.
Not me, it's the first thing
really?
I say.
All right, I love that, I love that.
Yeah.
Not me, but he introduced me to his dad, and I met Michael, and he said a few things that caught my eye. They were maybe a little provocative, or I was a young church kid, so he made some comments that I was like, oh, really? You think that way? And it expanded my thinking. It made me start to think a little differently, and I just spent more and more time around him. He allowed me to be a part of this thing he did still do at Bowling Green State University. It's called Vanguard. It's just a group of college guys helping them become the best version of themselves. It's a very open and honest conversation, a lot of vulnerability, a lot of honesty, and just a bunch of young guys. And I really loved that. I really liked the environment we were in, and I just kept showing up. And eventually Michael asked me to be a part of it, and I just kept saying yes, which is why I'm here today. Kept saying yes.
Well, I hope you haven't changed that opinion after having this experience. But I think that's a particularly important time to find a healthy group of people to circle around, right?
Yeah.
And asking good questions.
No doubt.
Whenever people talk about tough times, I think people talk about teenage years and puberty and things like that, which are certainly an unmitigated nightmare. But the tail end of college, or when you cut the cord from college, they're like, well, who am I? That's a rough go. So I'm pleased to hear and interested in that experience. I'm sure it was value to you and your buds.
We were talking with Sara Best about emotional intelligence, and got into a little bit of the workplace relationships piece. I'm always fascinated about this, and maybe it's both me as an employee and as an employer, just thinking about finding that balance between being supportive of your colleagues and your coworkers, but also still maintaining a healthy balance. They say work-life balance doesn't exist, right? That you'll never find them perfectly in balance. It's more about creating the boundaries, the healthy boundaries between them.
Absolutely.
But I'm curious kind of what your coaching approach to that is. Yeah,
the first thing I'll say is you mentioned balance, and I think sometimes I like to look at it more as like a tension. Like two things are true that exist at the same time, and it's not so much trying to put the same amount of weight into one as you put the other. It's more being very aware. You just talked about that, right? The awareness of your emotions, the awareness of other people's emotions, the awareness of the situation that's at hand. And I think that allows us to decide, is this a time to stick to the boundary that I put in place, or is this maybe a time to listen more and connect more with the people that I'm with at work, and that I'm developing and maintaining and trying to cultivate healthy, trust-filled relationships with. Sometimes it's important to lean on those boundaries, right? We don't want to be the therapist for everybody at work. We're not there to, try and help them navigate these really complex, traumatic situations they may have in their life. But at the same time, we're humans. We bring our whole selves to work, like we just talked about. And so the ability to listen, to ask questions, to state the boundary that maybe exists for you in that situation, I think is really important. So a tension that exists, and I find that true with most things in life, right? Two things are true at the same time, and it's not a balance. It's not about putting 50% here and 50% here. It's about navigating the ambiguity of life and going, oh, what is this call for? How is this helpful? How is this not helpful?
What's the scenario or an issue going on in a workplace that someone would reach out to Michael Brown Coaching? What is it that you would do?
Yeah, so we work with a plethora of different types of industries. Me personally, I work with a lot of fraternities. So the organizations are frat boys, and I work with their president, and there's a lot of conflict management there. But we also work with professional athletes, young professionals, CEOs. I would say what's common is most people don't know how to handle conflict in a healthy way. They either take the bull by the horns and kind of push through it and just, I gotta say it how it is, right? I have to tell people what's true, or they avoid it and never deal with it. Instead of entering into those conversations with a level of trust, with a level of honesty, transparency, respect, all of those things are super important. And with the goal of being coming out the other end of it with a healthier, stronger relationship, maybe some next steps to get better, to grow. But ultimately, I think, again, we talked about earlier, is not doing too much of one or the other, but being aware of what the situation calls for.
How do you, when you step into any situation, regardless if it's a fraternity or a professional athlete, what does the sort of diagnosis or information gathering phase look like?
Yeah, a lot of questions, a lot of getting to know people, a lot of getting to know what their upbringing was, because that shapes us,
Absolutely.
right? We can't avoid that.
Yeah.
Just like we can't avoid our emotions, the way our brain is formed in the first 10 to 15 years of life is a lot of who we are, and so we have to become really aware of that. I think it's also important to understand other people's perspective on teams, because when you're talking or consulting with somebody, you're just getting their side, you're just getting their perspective. And sometimes you can hear the gaps, you can hear some of the things they may be speaking on, you're like, oh, got it. So your relationship with this individual who you're very frustrated with is not good. So any coaching or any type of feedback you give them is going to be taken in a way where it's just two opposing forces coming at each other.
Sure.
Or maybe you're both just avoiding it. You never talk about it. You never address the conflict that's at hand. And
Have you ever had to tell someone in a workplace that it's just not gonna, they just need to move the person, or it's just not gonna work? I mean, that's possible that people just can't mix, right? They're just, their relationships is never gonna.
Yeah, we're living that on the show.
We can talk about that afterwards.
Yeah, no, let's talk about right now.
Sure, absolutely. There are definitely situations where the best next step moving forward, maybe you've done, step 1 through 5 and really tried to work through and create a relationship, build some trust, build some respect between two individuals. But maybe it just doesn't work, and that's okay too.
There's got to be experiences, and we can use my own agency as an example. There is a healthy conflict. Either you have a large agency or you're public facing, so things have to rub. I work for the Metro Parks during the day, and we are at our best when natural resources and activation or operations rub. And in both things, we need to honor equally. They both have their own individual intrinsic value, but how do you manage or coach people to rub naturally? Because from a natural resources perspective, everything should be green space and to some degree pristine, right? Or not impacted by human beings. And the activation part, right, or operations wants everything to be able to be seen and experienced. So we want those two things to be in conflict, maybe not in the traditional sense, but how do you coach people through the fact that they're like, yes, this is when your agency or company is at its best, when you two are at odds. How do you coach people through that, or they're thinking that that's a natural dynamic? Yeah,
so you're kind of saying that there's, in this example you're giving, there's two things that seemingly are opposites.
You want them both to be true.
Yeah, right, like you were kind of saying. Sure. Yeah, I think number one, an awareness that both of those things can be true at the same time. And if your team believes that, then you can enter into the conversation not as opposing forces, where one person may be holding one value and another person holding the other, but instead asking the question, how do we accomplish both of the things at the same time? You mentioned this too, but in that conflict is where you will, most of the time, see the most growth within that, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm thinking about what are the things I would say to somebody or how I would coach them through it is, some of those phrases, right? Like, in the messiness is where we're gonna see the most growth. It feels uncomfortable, cool, lean into it, keep leaning into it. Rely on the trust, rely on the relationships you've built with the people around you. They want the best for you, you want the best for them, and you both want the best for this organization. You both wanna see Metro Parks all over Toledo that are healthy, that families can go to, that are green, but also have resources to use, right? So yeah, I think it's casting a vision as a leader but also being willing and able to step into those messy, hard conversations.
Yeah.
We have a really great leader at Highland, which is where I work my day job at. All of our coaches work day jobs, which I think is super cool. And he will often invite that conflict or invite who else is frustrated. He'll say things like that at the end of a meeting. All right, we got 5 minutes left. I'd love to hear something else someone's grumbling with or frustrated with. Let's talk it out. Let's air it out. Yeah,
how do you get from frustration to it being constructive? That takes real leadership, right?
Absolutely.
Because at some point you need to have a space where particular people may have the ability to vent, but you don't have all day, to your point, and you're not all therapists.
Yeah,
so
totally.
moving forward, like, okay, what you're saying now is just venting.
And it's not a big leap to go from one person sharing something to everybody piling on,
anarchy.
and now it's just
We've all been in that meeting, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
One person's like, well, and then another person's like, well.
Sure.
Yeah, you have to give people space to vent and to speak.
I work for myself.
Oh, good, perfect.
Yeah, because everyone else quit.
And I am a nightmare.
You ask yourself.
Sometimes people quit. That's okay.
Yeah.
I think inviting it is important. Acknowledging. I like the phrase, what I'm hearing you say is, I think is a really helpful phrase in just life to say back to people, but especially in the workplace environment when you're a leader and you're leading a group of people just want to be heard. Right?
Yeah.
They just want to know that you're listening to them, you're acknowledging the things that they're experiencing. Because the reality is when you're a boss or a leader, you're probably 4 or 5 steps disconnected from the everyday work. So your ability to actively listen and make people feel, not just feel, but know that you're understanding what's going on. So
what do you,
at the risk of over pivoting here, I do want to talk a little bit about communication in this space, right? People communicate differently, and both in style, in mechanism, right? Even within the 3 of us, right? We joke that like Matt has never returned a text message in his life. But like
I think I texted you once actually.
Yes.
He'll get to it eventually.
No.
But like, you know, people prefer text, people prefer email, people prefer phone call. You know, Zoom calls are now, it's like, hey, everything's got to be a Zoom call. And I default to like, hey, you want to hop on a Zoom call? And they're like, I'll just call you. And I was like, oh, that's
Kevin,
right.
I'm your wife.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But like, what's the balance, and how do you find that, and how do you prioritize what's best for me versus what's best for the person I'm trying to talk to?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a leader, if you're leading a team or managing a team, it's your responsibility to know the preferences and to know some of the things that the way your team works and what makes them tick, but also what their preferences are when it comes to communication. I'm someone who I like to over-communicate. I like to spell things out in an email, maybe even give you a follow-up call afterwards and say, hey, did you get my email? Some people respond with 2-word sentences.
That's right, and those people are geniuses.
Yeah, geniuses, or if you're like me on the other end, you're like, do they hate me? Like,
Right.
did they even listen to what I said? Yeah, that's what we're thinking on the other end of it, Matt.
Yeah.
But back to the initial question is how do you navigate the different preferences of methods of communication, or I think that methods of anything, right? And I think that's knowing your team. We talked a little bit before I was on about emotional intelligence, understanding what makes your team tick, what they get excited about, what frustrates them, and acknowledging maybe you have 3 people on your team who hate Zoom calls, but a boundary you've created is we're going to do Zoom calls because that's the thing that works the best. Having a conversation with those 3 people who hate Zoom calls and navigating the messiness of that, and listening to them and going, why is that frustrating? I hear you. Would it be okay if we did a Zoom call once a week on Mondays at 8 a.m., right? You're setting that boundary, you're setting that expectation, you're having that conversation. It seems simple, but a lot of this stuff and a lot of the stuff we do when it comes to coaching, it's not complex, it's just hard. It's just the hard things. And I think that's true about life too.
Yeah.
We're talking with Casey
Well said.
Greenawalt with Michael Brown Coaching. If people want more information on Michael Brown Coaching, where can they find it?
dmbcoaching.com. We also have a podcast. It's called 3 Words. 3 words. That's simple. We do like a 10-minute podcast every week where we talk about 3 words that will help you become the best version of yourself.
So that's
Love
a
it.
long time just to deliver 3 words. 10
They're real
minutes.
long words.
Yeah, they're really long words.
That's right.
Casey, thank you so much.
Nice
we
to meet
appreciate
you.
it.
Pleasure.
When we come back, we'll be joined by Deb Ayres with the Avalon Foundation. Today is Rare Disease Day. I think I got that right.
Yep.
So-
We'll find out officially on the other side of this break. It's Wellness Wednesday on the 419.
Support for the 419 comes from Witro Wealth Management, where we understand that your financial path is personal. Advisory services are offered through Capital Investment Advisory Services, LLC. Securities offered through Capital Investment Group, Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. More information at WitroAdvisors.com.
Destination Toledo. Whether you're a local or a visitor, Destination Toledo invites you to explore the region and be a tourist in Toledo. Find events, dining, and things to do at visittoledo.org.
WorkSpring. HR issues and employee well-being go hand in hand. WorkSpring supports employers through compliance, training, and wellness because healthy workplaces don't happen by accidents. Learn more at workspring.org.
Toledo Refining Company, a subsidiary of PDF Energy. Toledo Refining Company is a supplier of fuels that keep our region moving. Located in Oregon, Ohio, the refinery processes crude oil into gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and other petroleum products.
And TARTA, celebrating its 55th year of connecting Northwest Ohioans to their community. More information at tarta.com.
Welcome back into the 419, a Wellness Wednesday edition presented by WorkSpring. We're joined now by Deb Ayres with the Avalon Foundation. Deb, thank you for joining us.
I'm so excited to be here. Good morning, everybody.
Thank you for coming in.
Who is Avalon and what is the Avalon Foundation?
The Avalon Foundation, our mission is to help families that are challenged with a rare disease diagnosis or possibly undiagnosed, but we're working with the rare disease community or those affected by it. Avalon happens to be my daughter. She started this organization when she was 10 years old, and so we're going over 9 years strong now, and we also have parlayed this into a youth leadership program in the Toledo area.
What is the definition of a rare disease?
Rare disease is something that's diagnosed 1 in 200,000. It's rare, but the interesting part about it is rare diseases affect 1 in 10 people, and over 50% of those are kids. So 90%, like wrap your head around all these numbers. If you're under the age of 18, and you get diagnosed with something, 90% of those things are rare diseases because it's really not common for young people to be getting, diagnosed with things. But we have such a, so many things are connected to genetics, and we have so many anomalies coming through generation by generation. So we're seeing an uptick in all of these things. And so it's interesting because right now, as medicine advances, and we are coming up with treatments for some of these things, they're starting to test the generations ahead of them and the siblings, and they're finding that it's spreading a little bit more common than we thought.
I remember hearing the phrase rare disease isn't rare.
Yeah.
Right? Like that, I think that's an interesting perspective because, we've talked about this even with my own health journey, right? You feel alone, but knowing that you're not, right? And maybe
it's huge.
The individual disease you have may be rare, but the reality is you're in a community that's all navigating this together.
Exactly, even the undiagnosed. So I love the two guests you had on before me. You bring in Sara talking about emotional intelligence, and then you have Casey talking about coaching, and that's essentially what the Avalon Foundation does for rare families. So we're bringing in this idea of helping the families navigate the emotional journey of all of this so that they don't feel alone, to your point, and then coaching them so that they understand how if we can stabilize a family, emotionally wrap their head around the diagnosis, they're going to do so much better in treatment. A lot of these treatments, like my daughter's, was incredibly painful. The treatment for hypophosphatasia, which is her diagnosis, was a daily injection that felt like hot lava under the skin and caused tremendous amount of, you dealt with a whole nother nasty set of symptoms that came along with the treatment. And so parents are left wondering, what the heck do you do? How do you navigate all of this, and how do you take care of yourself through that? Because you may have other children, to manage, and you have your life to manage and your work to manage, and your life is falling apart for your child, and so it's falling apart for you.
With all of that you're going through, why did you and Avalon decide to take this on?
That was going to be my question too. How do you stay? You're a very positive person. We're meeting for the first time, but I inevitably ask this, I think, one of our three guests, but how do you keep the faith in this? How do you keep the energy level in this going?
So it's a challenge
for
sure.
Yeah.
You got to be tapped into your why and your passion. But when we first started, Avalon had, for her particular treatment, it was a really rough 90 days. it's hard for a kid to stick to something for 90 days without getting results. And her particular drug took about 3 months before you got results. But she went from living part-time in a wheelchair to the volleyball court in 4 months.
How about that?
You know, had never run or jumped and was able to
Amazing.
start playing CYO sports.
Yeah.
So that was very exciting.
Yeah.
When she got to
Kevin was just recently banned from CYO sports.
Oh.
Not yet. It's coming.
It's getting, it's
Yeah.
coming there.
It's
Wear
close.
your bow tie, it'll
Yeah.
help you.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's why you got suspended. Yeah, he was wearing only that.
They've definitely banned bow ties.
So yeah, we got to the other side of that challenge, and that's when Avalon said, I can't imagine how other kids do this. I have, you know, parents that are educated and know how to do all of these things. What about the kids that don't? I want to do something to help
But
them.
at 10, I mean, that's an incredible
Emotional
thought
intelligence.
process, right? I mean,
if you
to
meet
think
her,
of other
Kevin's
people.
met her, like she's kind of a force of her own.
exceptional.
She's incredible.
Yeah, she is. But I will say, while my daughter is incredible, I never want to pivot from that. I think all kids are. And I think if you give them the right set of circumstances to succeed, that's what our youth leadership program is about. And I think when you have kids that are facing these medical challenges at a young age, it sets them up with a whole different set of challenges that develop different skills. They develop a lot of empathy, compassion. You know, they develop a lot of management skills and leadership skills, the way they have to manage their own medical circumstances. They grow up real fast.
Can we talk through?
We're talking with Deb Ayres with the Avalon Foundation. I want to talk a little bit about like the tactical things that you guys are doing
too.
day to day.
Yes.
But real quick, we've talked about Avalon. Just for folks that, you know, they've kind of heard this journey, where's Avalon and how's she doing today?
She's doing well today. She's in her junior year at GW University out in DC, planning to take her LSAT in April, and heading off to T14 law school at some point in the near future.
And she's all around the country doing
Debate.
Debate.
All around the world doing debate, yes. So she found her thing was debate.
That's great.
Started freshman year in high school, found a deep passion for social justice debate. She's doing transatlantic debate now, and she's a debate coach for a school similar to St. John's out in DC. And those are probably my favorite phone calls. She calls and says, it's just so amazing to watch my students accomplish so much.
That's
so
exciting.
It's exciting. So she has a bright future. She manages tough times every day. You know, she gets up, has to kind of decide what she can accomplish for the day and how she's going to do that. But there's very little that keeps her down.
There's a couple sides to the organization.
We can all learn a lot from that.
Yeah.
There's a couple sides to the organization. One of them is the pain boxes.
Yes.
Talk to me about what those are, and I think we can all kind of, we'll figure out where they came from.
That's how the whole thing started.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Forgive me. It's cold. Yeah, cold and flu season.
You always cough toward Kevin.
Yes, most people do. Yeah, he gives me a regular checkup in the morning. Go ahead.
The pain box started Avalon when she was going through her tough time. Grandma Karen, who's an RN, came over and said, you know, Deb, we've got to make sure Avalon maintains this treatment. It's the difference between you bearing her or her bearing you. So, you know, there is no option to say no, because that's what Avalon was saying. And so she gave her a box of incentives. Simple, right? Parents do incentive stuff all the time. Hell, we still give gold stars for going potty on time. Do you get that, Matt?
Yeah, well,
I heard Kevin gives you a gold star.
He hasn't done
I've
it
been
in a
received a
long
lot.
time.
Yeah, I'm going right now.
I buy them for myself all the time.
That's right.
But bribery works.
Bribery works, and so that became the pain box. And Grandma said, we're going to call it the pain box because we're not going to, you know, get around the fact this thing is painful. We're going to acknowledge it. You're going to build resilience. You're going to build courage. You're going to, you know, you're going to develop yourself through this challenge, and we're going to call it pain box. And that's when Avalon said, I want to do pain boxes for everybody else. And she gathered her friends together, and they started the Avalon Foundation.
Dealing with pain, dealing with all of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
How about that?
Oh,
Yeah.
listen. You don't want to get into that story. That's off camera.
Dealing with all of this, you know, builds such incredible character and resilience and all of that. And I know that youth leadership development is a big piece of this organization as well. Yeah. Let's talk about what KC4K is.
KC4K stands for Kids Caring for Kids, and so kidscaringforkids.org was our domain, or is our domain, how we got started with that. And that gives a little bit more description as to what we do. And we have a new cohort of young people that are our leaders now. They actually are, it's designed so that they're the advisory board to our board of directors. So they really run the show. And the kids last year are the first set of kids that weren't related to Avalon, didn't relate to her story or know her. And they came around and said, we need to be connected to patients in a different way. Let's stick with the mission, but we want to do something locally. And they came up with this idea, and we ended up, Toledo Rotary funded it, and we started the Care Box program, and that's going into local hospitals and helping kids that are undiagnosed or have rare diseases that have to stay extended in a hospital. So this is like, the kids continue to lead the way, and we teach, we're built on the pillars of leadership, compassion, commitment, and contribution. And that's what we want them to take away from this leadership program.
And you have an event coming up on February 28th. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
We do. That's our annual brunch. It's the young leaders are the ones that create the program and do the education, but they're there to celebrate Rare Disease Day, which is always the last day of February, Kevin.
I was a little early.
But it's Rare Disease Month.
He likes to celebrate the whole month.
It is a global celebration,
Yeah.
so you're going to see stuff from all, if you tap into rare disease, it's all over the country, all over the world. And so we say, show your stripes. Thank you for wearing your stripes today.
I wore a bow tie and I wore stripes. And
I
then you
got
come on
my
here.
zebra. Yeah, you got checkers. Those are several stripes.
Yes, thank you. I'd like you immediately. Yeah, yes, yep.
I'm wearing my zebra, which is the symbol for rare disease.
Okay.
And because no zebra ever has the same stripes. They're all different, just like all of our rare kids and our rare families. And yet, when we run in a herd, we feel together.
I love that.
that.
That's brilliant.
All right, let's do this. I know you brought some gifts. I'll get to that in a minute. I want to make sure we get in Gretchen's wacky quiz.
Okay.
4 rapid fire questions from me. Gretchen's going to ask you for your favorite thing.
good at this stuff.
And Matt's going to ask
Okay.
you for 9 words that describe Toledo.
Okay.
If you could be your own country, what would it be called?
Oh.
Country, what would it be called? Compassionate state.
Love it.
Love it.
What's your most used emoji?
Praying hands.
What's your favorite season?
Spring.
And what's your favorite thing to do on a rainy day?
Binge watch something with my cat and my husband.
That's a good day. That's a good day. What is your number one, what you consider to be the best thing or your favorite thing about Toledo or the region?
2 things. The people I love are here, so that's kind of a give me. Other than that, the mother tree at Wildwood.
Yeah.
I grew up hanging out with her all the time, and I'm grateful that I'm there during the end of her life with us.
Yeah.
So yeah, mother tree.
Well, I love that answer. All right, 9 words. You ready to do it with me?
I'm ready.
Okay, fire away.
Fire. 9 words. Serendipitous.
Okay.
Affordable.
Love it.
Midwest friendly.
Yes.
It's hyphenated.
Yeah, got it.
Best metro parks.
Thank you.
Schools. Family. Crossroads. Entrepreneurs.
Crossroads, the movie with Britney Spears? No.
No.
Okay, got it. Keep going.
Crossroads, as in we have Amtrak, TARTA, I-75, it's
Infrastructure,
475,
yeah.
infrastructure,
And
right?
Britney Spears.
And the movie Britney Spears.
And the movie Britney Spears.
Neither have I.
I can't do it.
Yeah,
I can't do
It's
it.
all right.
And then I'm going to say Goldilocks because it's just the right size.
Love,
That's
love, love.
so good, Dad. Darn
Thank
you.
you.
That's
All right,
great.
You
Was
brought
that
us,
Great list, yes.
you brought us a gift, which is a requirement of ours.
Yes.
Well, I've been listening, and as I said, I like to talk back at you, talk back with you guys.
Is it mostly telling us to stop talking?
No, it's mostly referring to previous jokes you've made about each other in other episodes.
Yeah.
But I do know the tradition of needing to fill this bookcase.
Yes.
I'm grateful to be here in the beginning of the year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
To you guys for being here. It is such a fun show to listen to
very
and
kind.
to watch. I did a little watching in Florida, and then I did a little listening on the plane. But I brought for you guys.
I
Hope
love him.
is our zebra. She was stuffed by kids, so she's handmade
You're
with
kidding
love.
me.
Nope, the kids stuff these and then they send them to our patients. And they have the little Avalon Foundation with our logo on it. And our logo kids are all wearing their zebra stripes. And we put a bow tie on them just for Kevin.
Kevin,
sweet.
There
Yeah.
that's so great. I love
Yeah.
it. Thank you so much.
So for at
amazing.
least Rare Disease Month,
Hope.
I think he's got to hang out.
I
She's got to
agree.
hang out up there. Yep,
this
Hope.
is
Yep,
this
her
is
name
amazing.
is Hope.
Thank you so much. And you also brought us some magnets.
Yes.
And just remind everyone again about the Rare Disease Day annual brunch and auction. And
Yes, that is September 28th at Sylvania Country Club.
February 28th.
Did I? What
You
did-
said
I
September.
See, I'm
Oh,
way
it is
early.
early.
It is Deb,
I
isn't it?
know. It is. You got the right
February-
person.
yeah.
February
February
28th, Saturday, February 28th. It's a brunch. I know that we have the YWCA event in the evening, which is great. We're a brunch, so we're in the afternoon.
Absolutely.
We're at Sylvania Country Club. The kids have a great panel. We're featuring some wonderful speakers,
Yes.
including Isabella Wyke, Don Bentley, and
Julia Hage-like Page.
Julia Hage is our MC for the
That's
event.
great.
So we're
And
excited to have
Where
her.
can people find more information?
KC4K.us is the easiest way. KC4K.us.
You also have the best purse bingo
We do.
in town.
Purse bingo at this event?
Not at this event.
No,
a
that
different
is
event.
already
It's so good.
scheduled if
I
you
need-
want.
yeah, I
I've
need to-
already made Kevin keep it on his calendar.
What is it? What's
That
purse
is
bingo?
October.
Bingo for purses.
That is,
Oh,
I want to make
crazy.
sure I say the right date. That is October 9th.
It's such a good time.
Friday,
I've had a chance
October
to be
9th.
I've had a chance to be a part of it the last couple of years. It's a great time. All right, Deb Ayres with the Avalon
Thank you,
Foundation.
guys.
Thank you so much.
So much.
you.
So much
Yeah.
for being
Wonderful to
here.
meet you.
absolutely.
Great to see you again,
too.
Gretchen.
You too.
When we come back, we'll wrap up this Wednesday edition of the 419 Wellness Wednesday, presented by WorkSpring. We'll be right back.
Every day when you walk.
You laughed with us. You learned with us.
Hi, neighbor.
We made sure your childhood was special. Memories that could only be provided by PBS. For generations, we've given you programs that made a difference. Programs that entertained, informed, and inspired. And today is no different. This is WGTE Public Media in Toledo. It's where you belong.
Introducing The Local Thread, a community news series uniting voices and storytellers from across the region. In partnership with La Prensa, the Toledo Free Press, the Sojourner's Truth, Toledo Public Schools, and veteran journalist Jerry Anderson. The Local Thread brings you stories and conversations that connect our community. Hear it weeknights at 7 on FM 91 with early access on podcast platforms each morning. The Local Thread, only on WGTE.
Welcome back to the 419, a Wellness Wednesday edition presented by WorkSpring.
That show flew by, I thought.
Not for me.
I was paying attention.
Well,
why.
that's the definition of emotional intelligence.
That's
man.
right. Thank you. And that's called a wrap up.
Yeah, that's right. No. I appreciate that, both with Sara and with Casey, the conversation was really more about like awareness and acceptance than like massaging or like avoiding or anything like that. It was like, be aware that you have these emotions.
Yeah, you're not supposed to massage people at work.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
What?
All right.
Is that what you learned?
That's not what I meant.
Oh, okay.
I meant but trying to avoid situations.
Yes.
It's like, that's not going to work. Let's acknowledge that it exists. Acknowledge that, you have emotions, and here's the way you want to be communicated with, and here's the way that you want to be, led or disagreed with. And so I enjoyed
Every
that.
one of those guests could have been a whole show.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, there was
Good
a lot of, thanks for that, Gretchen.
Well, the beautiful thing is we've got a lot more shows to go.
That's right.
And so
we ever?
Yeah, we're gonna have them back on some more. If you missed any part of today's show, there's 3 great opportunities for you to enjoy it. 7 a.m. on WGT's YouTube channel, 3 p.m. on FM 91 in Toledo, Bryan, Defiance, and Lima, and 6 p.m. on channel 30.4 WGTE Connects. Thanks to Sara Best, Casey Greenawalt, and Deb Ayres for joining us on the program. Tomorrow, it is our Toledo.com community calendar, driven by TARDA. We'll take a look at some of the coolest things coming up on the weekend and throughout the month, and we'll also talk a little bit about the Olympics as well.
Good.
So thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the 419, powered by WGTE and presented by by our friends at Witro Wealth Management.
The 419, powered by WGTE, is made possible in part by supporters like you. Thank you.